talking 40K in USD
Yeah.
into this platform. And since then, it's been really good returns. So in the I'd say, where are we now? 23rd of March. In, let's say, the 7 weeks that I've been trading on the platform, I've yielded very much a 10K profit. But I said, look, guys, this has been working for me so far. I would show them my returns, right, straight from my MetaTrader 4 app view, and say, hey, look, guys, this is what I've made today so far, or made this week so far, and I'll just keep them updated. This could be something viable for you.
For you to kind of just introduce who you are, kind of as a person, so
Yeah,
they know, like, who is the guy that I'm talking to.
Start from the beginning, right? Name's Brookman, and we've been friends and mates for a long, long time, right? And ever since leaving work, I did, what every sort of risk-averse person would do, right? So I went for further studies. When we graduated back in 2009, it wasn't the best situation, right, for all of us and many of us concerned. So I ended up going and studying at Oxford for a few years, doing theology, and did what any person would do from there, going into investment banking, of course, right? So I did that for a few years, looked and saw sort of how crazy financial markets could get, right? From banking, so I look, I've done my 2 years, I've had enough, and ready to sort of take my learnings elsewhere. I was
where were you in the world at that time? Where were you in the world? Because you were at Oxford,
as a banker, I was in London.
Yeah.
I was in London, so I was based in Canary Wharf, right?
Okay.
Wharf.
Yeah.
And after that, then moved to Jakarta. So I had some friends that were in consulting, and they said, hey, look, there are some really cool things that we're working on here.
Yeah.
When my friends who were in consulting in the UK were like, hey, yeah, we're just doing a lot of sort of, efficiency drives.
Is that your boy in the background, or your?
This is my girl.
She sounds amazing. No. It's fine. It's fine. I was like,
yeah,
we've got an audience.
Yeah, there it is. Yes, baby. Papa's on a call. So let me just go quickly show her. This is my girl.
Hey, what's her name? She's beautiful.
Yeah. Hello. Say hello. Hello. There you go. So 2 years old, Leia. Princess Leia.
Princess Leia.
Commander
Good name.
Leia.
Yeah, strong name.
Yeah.
How many? Is it 3 you've got altogether? I think I've seen.
2 kids. Two kids. But okay. I'm about to get a third. In other words, a puppy. That's coming tomorrow as well. So we're doing the full thing, full shebang.
Leia, you're a lucky lady, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. She's gonna get everything.
My puppy, Papa.
Yeah, it's our puppy, darling, not your puppy only.
Okay.
So
you're talking. Yeah, you were in London for a couple of years. You said at this
London
time.
A couple of years.
Dude, it sounds fascinating. Yeah.
Corporate development work in Malaysia, through to trying to close deals in Philippines.
Okay.
With Malaysian clients, and so been all across the shop, and that was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds it. God.
And then from there, I went into fintech.
Okay.
So as within fintech, I joined a financial comparison site, which was basically moneysupermarket.com.
Okay.
But for Asia, right?
Yeah.
I think from a sort of switching it to like a personal finance side, I've always been interested in personal finance since 2010, 2011, when I first started my journey going into financial services banking. Was at first really more of a fundamental investor. Mm-hmm. So I read grew up on the books of Benjamin Graham, a lot of the Warren Buffett shareholder letters, right, and the books about Buffett. So really fundamental investing, looking at how much money or free cash flow can a business yield, and you just basically look at sort of the free cash flow discounted over time into perpetuity.
Yeah.
And whatever that net present value is, that's it. Boom, that's your valuation. You look at the stock market. Is it under or is it over? And that kind of pretty much informs your buying decision. Now, in recent years, I've been looking at trading a bit more, especially this year, and understanding, and a book that kind of opened up my eyes was by Mark Minervini, called Stock Market: How to Trade Like a Stock Market Wizard. There are too many stories of bots where, or even trading strategies where, from 1 week to the next, you're down on a capital call about 20% of your principal. So that not just wipes out all your income, but also potentially some of your principal, and that's not a great place to be.
Yeah.
So by harvesting it at the right moment, and doing something like you did, Deepak, really sort of harvesting it to actually invest into properties, it's a great thing. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about, using kind of gains from FX to finance, let's say, equity positions, trading
Yeah.
positions, as and when their opportunities present themselves.
Let's talk track record with this opportunity so far. When were you introduced? When did you invest? If you're happy to share kind of numbers that you can kind of report.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I was in a bit of an interesting situation for this particular, platform that you're using there, Deepak. I was initially obviously very intrigued. Um, I also had an ISA in the UK.
Okay.
And this particular ISA, I knew that. So, and this was actually at the beginning of the year. So when I first heard about it, it was actually from one of your newsletters
Yeah.
in December, Jan, and that's how I got sort of thinking, hey, look, let's have a conversation first. Let's see what this can do, and decided, you know what, let's give it a go. Right. So let's give it a go, and if it's working well, then great. I'm happy to reinvest a bit more. If it doesn't work, then it's a small investment, and it's happy to be thrown away, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So for that, to make sure that this particular bot was able to trade, needed a minimum of 10k pounds. So I put in an initial deposit of, let's say, 18k. Now the second thing was I also had an ISA from when the good old days back in the UK, right? And that was continuing to compound. But I knew that the stock market in general was actually already extended.
Okay.
And I knew that we were due for a bear market correction. So I thought, you know what, this is a good time for me to take it out from my current yield into something that's potentially higher yielding.
Yeah.
So then what I did is I actually closed my ISA account, and I put some of my savings, or pretty much all of that holdings, which wasn't very much. We're talking 40k in USD,
Yeah.
into this platform. And since then, it's been really good returns. So in the I'd say, where are we now? 23rd of March. In, let's say, the 7 weeks that I've been trading on the platform, I've yielded pretty much a 10k profit.
Wow.
As
Okay.
well on a principal base of 58k, right? So
Okay.
we're talking about a good 15% income over 2 months, right? Which is
Okay.
fantastic by
Yeah.
any measure.
Yeah. 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 Brilliant. Brilliant. And what was it then, with all of that in mind, that made you decide that you'd use this bot or algo, whatever you want to call it, over another? I mean, there's plenty out there. There's all of
Yeah.
these questions. Was there anything particular that was instrumental to your decision?
Yeah. So first, I mean, to be honest, the biggest selling point was yourself. Because it's important for me to look at longevity, right? And when I did some research as to FX trading strategies, bot trading strategies, a lot of these are sort of, you can either just buy the bot itself,
Yeah.
and then you have to make your own changes to it,
Yeah.
and then it's sort of down to you to trade as and when you want. And the way that these guys are comped are basically, look, it's a one-time sale, and they don't worry about you anymore,
Yeah.
right? The way that these guys worked was, yeah, and I was asked that very clearly. How do you continue to profit, right? And what is your sort of incentive to make sure that this works for me? Is that, okay, well, we make sure that, yes, of course, we sell the software to you, but then also the ongoing gains, right? There's a rebate for us for the trades that you make. So the higher the volumes, so the better that you perform, the more that we get paid. So that's how we are, comped over the long term. So that was a good attractive thing for me.
Okay.
The second point was, is there more than just a few months worth of investment history, right? So when I looked at your example, and you were saying, look, I was able to make X amount in a 2-year time frame, having traded with them for, I think, back in the time that I was looking at this, 20 months by then.
Yeah.
That was already a very solid history, right? Because we've seen some upsides, downsides, and you would have gone through sort of the market correction at the end of 2018.
Yeah.
And if it's performed well through all of that, then I'd say, okay, great. This actually doesn't just do well in one particular macro environment.
Yeah.
It does well in multiple.
Yeah.
And I will say, for this bot so far, when I just started, right, this was still Jan,
Yeah.
Feb, we were still in the mid-Feb hitting highs,
Yeah.
pretty much all, for the S&P. It wasn't performing the best, but as soon as Corona started hitting, and as soon as we had much more turbulent market environments, the way that the spot worked is that it would trade on breakout strategies. So if
Okay.
there are massive sort of macroeconomic indicators that
Yeah,
will
for the
then
benefit of
basically
the
be direct.
audience who aren't sure of what a breakout strategy is, could you briefly explain?
Sure. Yeah. My understanding, right? My very limited understanding of FX, right? On the breakout strategy is that look, as it looked for certain macro indicators, right? So it could be, for instance, unemployment numbers. It could be revisions to GDP forecasts. It could be reduced volumes trading on S&P. It could be sort of a halting of futures trading on the aftermarkets. All these things basically would indicate or correlate with a straight up FX swing, right,
Okay.
between any two given currency pairs.
Yep.
So it could be between the euro and the pound. It could be between, let's say, the New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar, right? So it can be any one that you're looking at. So this particular bot, it trades on, okay, if there are larger macro factors at play, then it'll make a bigger bet.
Okay. Yep. 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 Okay. Okay. No. Fantastic. Fantastic. And then I know. I understand recently that you decided to. At what I guess. Well, I guess the question I'm asking is, at what point did you feel comfortable introducing other people to this kind of forex experience that you've had?
Yeah. Yeah, so one is that obviously like it's sustainable income, right? So one is I understood like the reason that I was actually much more gung ho investing into this platform and investing a little bit more now, also given recent sort of like macro factors, right, is that it's a great contrarian investment opportunity. Right. So if I feel it's too risky to invest in markets, then you know what, cash is king, and I'll just happily park my money in just a money market fund. It'll continue to earn me, let's say, 1-2% interest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Better than nothing. But if I'm looking for yield, slightly more risk, and more asset diversification that will increase my overall yield on my portfolio, then this I thought would be a good play.
Okay.
Now that I've seen good good performance over the last 50 days, I was happy to start recommending it
Yeah. Yeah.
to my friends who were facing the similar situation to I was, right? And they're saying, look, it's a bit too early to invest in housing properties because there's still some inflated prices. Now actually it happens to be a good time. But two, for those who actually had a big allocation into equities, they said, yeah, I'm pretty much all in cash right now, and I'm just looking for my yield. This presented a good opportunity. So I said, look, guys, this has been working for me so far. I would show them my returns, right, straight from my MetaTrader 4 app view, and say, hey, look, guys, this is what I've made today so far, or made this week so far, and I would just keep them updated. This could be something viable for you. And honestly, my guidance has always been, you try it out, you think about it, you do your own research, and if you're happy with it, give it a try.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they need to be comfortable with the level of risk, everything that we're going into. But I would also caution them and say, hey, look, again, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's not going to be the be all end all and the panacea to all your problems, right? It's a good opportunity, but treat it as an opportunity, not the cure all.
Well, what I really like about your approach, and you got a very robust approach to how you size up an opportunity within your overall kind of asset portfolio. And I think that, as you said, the diversification piece has been critical, and taking that approach where there's a range of opportunities on hand, as you said, that there's the equity and bonds markets, and there's property, and the inherent issue that many of these markets face is that the liquidity that forex provides is really quite powerful, and it can become, as you said, as it has for me, dude, basically just a strategy where I can take the returns that I generate and pour it into something that's a longer term, more stable asset, and assuming, as it has been for the last couple of years, when I have hit my lows, as you saw from my newsletter, where I think I took a 30k loss, and at that point, of course, it was a bit of a panic for me, but Ollie and I went through the numbers, and he said, you're still 50 or 55k up or something overall, and I looked at it and I thought, I can't get that return in this time frame anywhere else that I know of, at least.
Yeah.
So I thought, the sensible thing to do is to wait and to see where we get to by the end of the year. And by the end of the year, that profit had returned, and then we continue to go up. So yeah, there's coming up to April next month, it'll be 24 months of trading history that I'll have.
Yeah.
And as you said, with the market today, it seems like a better time than ever to be in a market like this because of the swings that are happening at the moment. So no,
Yeah.
is there any final thought or comment you'd like to add for anyone who's maybe watching this video and has been presented to the opportunity for the first time that you think is useful?
Yeah, so I'd say, look, if this is your first time doing it, spend the time going through the research, understand sort of the main pitfalls, understand what the main risks are that you're about to get into, right? And and if you give it a try, give it a solid try, right? I mean, like, there a lot of jumpy investors that would say, hey, look, I'm going to go try this as a 10K punt, and as soon as I lose, a 5%, or I've got, let's say, 1K drawdown, which is 10% of my capital, then I'm out, right? I'd say invest at that minimum for the bot to be able to trade is 10K, but give it a good try, right? It's not necessarily throwaway money to some. It's not. I mean, it's still a significant sum, right? But stick with it. And I'd say, once you've been able to see the ebbs and flows of this particular solution over a few market conditions, then you have a better understanding of how it trades, right?
Okay.
And just for me, it wasn't instant, right? At first it was sort of like a very slim pickings for a while because there weren't that many macro factors. The markets were going gangbusters. And only when it started becoming a little bit more volatile did it really present an opportunity for this particular solution and this particular bot to shine. The other thing I would mention, right? I mean, the reason that I even thought about this was I typically tend to do an annual review, right,
Okay.
with my wife, of basically, family values, everything, things like that, as well as where are we good for the long term? What are our goals this year, personally, professionally, spiritually? But then also from a personal finance perspective, that's kind of one agenda item, right? You can almost think about it as an annual sort of board meeting with my wife, right? We'll do it over
I
Vistacation.
love it.
It's fantastic. She's the one that creates the agenda, so she has a deck for us to go through, and we'll
Dude,
work
this is
through
awesome. I'm gonna have to
with
steal this
worksheets.
idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. It's great. But with the personal finance piece, and when I typically will track my net worth every quarter,
Okay.
right? So I'm like, from in terms of roles and responsibilities, I'm responsible for that, for all the investment decisions as a household, and I'll track my net worth across all the different asset classes. And the exercise that I went through in December is that, look, right now we're in a good situation where we're earning a decent salary, so I can actually afford to take on a little bit more risk in return for higher capital appreciation, right? Or higher yielding investments. So then I looked at my investments and said, okay, look, between sort of, and I was invested in peer-to-peer lending, which
Okay.
is returning decently well, maybe about 10% per annum. In Indonesia, bonds, which was paying a steady coupon interest stream, 7% net of tax. Equities, then some shares I already had from my Google days. My wife also worked for Google for a long time, so we have a bit of a holding there, and others. And I thought, look, looking back, where is the yield really going to come from an annual base perspective? And if I want to really think about compounding and letting compounding do its work over the long term, where I need to think and shift my assets towards higher yielding investments. So that's how I kind of came to my decision. Okay, look, I'm going to make a concerted effort to increase my yield, and I'll look at what are the other opportunities that allows me to get some higher yield,
Yep.
which then led me to trading, led me also to FX, right,
Okay.
to the bond.
Okay.
And again, we didn't decide to say, okay, look, I'm going to pull everything out of my 7% per year into something that could potentially be 50% per year, but slowly, right? And the idea is, as I get comfortable with it, I can allocate more to it, as long as it doesn't get higher than my target allocation,
Okay. Okay.
right?
That
And
makes sense.
so let's assume for argument's sake, it's 30%. At the time that in a time like this, for instance, when markets are gangbusters and it's doing really, really well for us, then I might say, okay, you know what? I'm right now at 35% of my allocation. Let me then take my 5% or my 5K gains or whatever it might be, and then put that towards something else.
Okay.
Right, and make sure that I'm disciplined in that manner. So we can't afford to get too greedy, right, and be too dependent on one particular source of income. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think, look, and I'm still very young on my forex journey, right? But I make sure to try to understand also the way that it trades, and understand also the way that, now that I'm looking into trading a little bit more, I can apply some of these concepts that I'm learning about equity trading and then into forex, right? And saying, hey, look, okay, now it's trading on a breakout strategy, and this is the way that it's actually scaling into a position.
Yeah.
So not making a massive investment once, but small incremental investments as the market conditions improve for that particular play. And then also looking at, okay, it's risk management trades, right? So it's hedged. Why? Because it actually trades on multiple different currency-based pairs, so that you're not overly stuck on one position, which is actually a very common downfall that I've seen with bots looking at reviews, reading on my own, right? So that allows me to understand actually what I'm doing a little bit more. So I think that's also important, right? So yes, love the fact that I can basically put it and not really think about it.
Yeah.
But I think also for me, I'd like to, I'm keen to learn. I'm very curious, and I'm keen to understand, okay, how does the mechanics of this really play out? And at some point in time, you never know. Who knows, right? I might complement it with some manual trading on
Yeah,
FX as well.
yeah. Listen, Jay, I've got no more questions, my friend. I think that, dude, thank you for taking the time.
No problem at all. It's great to be able to catch up again after all these years, and always a treat to be able to read your updates. So keep on doing what you're doing, man. It's fantastic.
Oh, no,